Second. All right. Hey, everybody. What's happening? I am so glad that you're all here. This is pretty exciting. I'm really quite gratified that that you guys could all show up. It means a lot to me, and I hope you guys can get something good out of this. All right. So here's what I'm gonna do, guys. I'm gonna jump into the presentation right now. I am recording it, and again, if you've got specific questions about what I'm saying, please put it into the Q&A. Otherwise, just throw it in the chat, and we'll get this, and I'll get to look at it later. But if you've got something that you don't understand or want me to answer as we're talking, that's great. And there are 72 people here, which is really freaking fantastic. And I hope everybody's having a great day. All right, so let's gotta make sure I'm just gonna share the right presentation with you guys. Yeah, here we go. All right. Now, so what we're talking about today, and Rifa, can you confirm that you can see my screen? I shared the right presentation.
I can see the screen. Yeah.
Okay, great, cool. All right, cool. So here's what. All right, great. All right, everybody can see it. That's awesome. Great. Okay, so I know that most of you guys are sort of you're either selling technical or marketing services, and so that's what I really want to talk about today. So that I really want to make sure that you are able to to sort of effectively present your services in a way that it makes it easy for the people who need your services to to respond and engage with you. All right. So I've been a multi-time CEO and a VP, and I must say that my my LinkedIn and email are full of these, and I call them the hello sir emails. And I'm sure at least some of you guys have sent these kind of emails, which is, hello sir, I do 53,000 things. If you have a job, please let me know. And even though this one is, even though this particular email that I just got this yesterday, was better than most, but this is a sort of a marvelously ineffective way to to do this, because nobody wants to get that. Like nobody wants a contact that's sort of reeking of desperation, and and it's just got a giant list of oftentimes unrelated things, because you will do SEO, graphic design, Facebook advertising, Python, C++ development, whatever. So they're often, these things are so broad. Or you say, like, we do mobile development, and all that stuff. It's awesome that you can do it, but you know what? It turns you into this. It turns you into someone who's just taking orders. And because the world is a complicated place, nobody has a menu. So nobody who's not ready to buy today has a menu of what what they want. And so when you reach out with these sort of with these big complex list of things that you can do, and I know that you think what you're trying to do is actually offer a great breadth of solutions so that you can offer everything to people. But here's the sad truth. So the chance of getting anything done. Yeah. So yes, I can do that. So I will put that into. Thank you, the anonymous attendee who wants to put it. So cool. All right. So the chances of getting anything done and the number of choices that you offer, they are inversely related. So and so by providing a great number of choices, you actually make it harder for people to engage with you, right? And that is and that's And that's really challenging, right? Because all of you guys are very talented. You've got a broad skill set, and you're thinking, well, I can do all of this stuff. You must have some need for this. And here's the real fact of the matter. Even if I do have a need for it, I don't know which one of those things I should pick. What I know about as a potential buyer of your services is this, is I know about the things I want to accomplish. I know about the problems in my business. I know about the thing that I want to get done. If you are telling me that you are a great SharePoint developer, like, is that going to help me get more customers or increase my internal communication or whatever? Because those are the pains that I feel. And you were saying, oh, we're the world's best SharePoint developers. Well, awesome, that's cool, and that's good for you. But how do I know that SharePoint development is exactly what I need right now? Now, I do know that you're thinking, well, smart people, technical people really get this. Like, they know it, or great marketers really know what they need. Guess what? They know what they want. They don't know what they need. So I want to solve a problem, and you are offering me a basket of tools. And if I have this problem, I may not know how to solve it. So I don't know which one of the tools I should pick. And that creates an enormous challenge for you guys, because you guys really understand the stuff that you do. And to a much lesser extent, you understand what your potential clients want. So I want to give you kind of a cheat sheet. So this is it, and this I really, really want you to, like, if there's one thing that you take away from this presentation today, it's this. So the 4 W's. This is sort of, these should be the organizing principles of your client business. You need to understand, who do I serve? What do I do? What's in it for my clients? And why should they hire me? Now, you guys are probably way overloaded on having a great answer for what do I do, or you think you have a great answer, but you don't really know who you serve. And what I mean by that, who do you serve? Who's your client? Who's the person that you can help the most and the best? You also, and also what I've seen, especially in the technical services realm, is nobody has a really good answer for what's in it for my client. And so what really happens is that you are listing off a great laundry list, a big list of things that you can do, but because you understand the stuff that you do, you can see the inherent value of it, but you don't know how to translate it into saying, if we spend 7 hours of sort of cleaning your data and then putting it through this Python script, and the ETL works beautifully, and you're like, great, like, so now we have a clean database, or we've got a clean analytics solution, and your client's thinking like, oh, great, so what do I get out of that? How does that impact my business? And one of the things that is so challenging especially for technical developers and for technical marketers is to sort of be able to extend beyond the edge of what they do, which is, we're going to normalize your data. We're going to write this great Python script, and the ETL is going to give you this database that's going to be beautiful, right? Like, that's cool. Like, that's like, you have created the end of that. You have made your part of that solution, but your client or prospect may not know how they can leverage that to increase their business. And now the other thing that is so dramatic here is, why should they hire me? Because there are 82 people on this call, and I'm going to guess that 60 of you are direct competitors. And if you are direct competitors, and that's just 60 people in this call, and there's then millions of people like you in the world. So why should your client hire you? Now, I know that in many parts of the world, price is the determinative factor. If you can pay a developer $25, one developer $25 and you can pay somebody $20 for the same work, you're gonna pick the $20 guy. Well, larger businesses don't actually operate with price as the determinative factor. They have to understand that your price is justified by the work that you do, the insight that you bring, the opportunity that you create. And so price is not a determinative factor. So, and so if you are making outreach and someone, and you're like, well, we only charge $11 an hour or $7 an hour or $50 an hour, whatever that is, that's not the reason they're going to hire you. They're not going to hire you because you are cheaper. They're going to hire you because you're better and you understand their business more. All right. So let's dive into these a little bit. So whom do I serve? Right? It's a big question. So this runs contrary to your instincts. So when you think about whom do you serve, what I'm essentially asking you to do is pick a kind of client that you think you can help better than some other kind of client. So for instance, I mostly work with agencies. And I do work with some SaaS companies, and I work with a couple of retailers, but mostly agencies is where I live. And so I know a lot about agencies. I know that I can help them better. I could not help an accountant in the same way that I can help an agency. And so I had to think, do I try to offer what I know how to do to everyone? Or do I try to focus on the people that I can work with the best? And let me tell you a quick story. I'm going to tell you, this is about my first agency, and I'll tell you why it failed. Okay. So this was the awful flash loading screen of my first agency in 2001. It was called the Kilroy Group. And every time you came to site, you had to see this stupid thing. It was awful. I can't believe I thought that was a good idea at that point. But honestly, this was just so terrible. And anytime we talked to a customer and they said, can you do, my immediate answer was yes. Can you do this? Yes. Can you do that? Yes. Can you do the other thing? Yes, 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 yes. So if it involved marketing in any way, we would do it. So we were doing things like web development, which I didn't have any expertise in. We were doing direct mail, which I knew a lot about. We did a billboard, we did magazine advertisements, we did search, we did email, we did all of this stuff because the only word that I knew how to say was yes. And it was just, we did everything for everyone. Our customer base went from e-commerce retailers to insurance agencies to an antique dealer to a telephone software company. Like we worked with everyone. And you know what that meant? It meant that we were all tied up in knots. Like we were good at a lot of stuff, but we weren't great at anything. And so we provided some value to people, but I was stretched too thin. My staff was stretched too thin because we weren't great at anything. We were good at a lot of stuff, but not great at anything. And guess what? People don't hire you if you're good. Like good is table stakes. Like everybody's good at what they do. You have to be great at something. So I'm going to ask you to think. Now, you don't have to turn down business that shows up, by the way, but I'm going to ask you to think about how you can narrow the kind of people you reach out to. Because if you have a better understanding of them, they're going to be more willing to hire you, and by the way, they're going to be more willing to pay you higher prices because, frankly, it costs more to hire an expert than a generalist, right? All right. So now I want you guys to think about, what do I do? Now, so let's imagine you're a marketer, right? You could say something like, I do paid search, and that's good. Like it sort of puts you in a, like your prospect knows where to put you, right? So they understand that you provide marketing services and you work in paid search. Great, cool. You've taken away some cognitive tasks from them, right? So there are people that suddenly, like they know what you do, and they can put you in a box and understand if there's an opportunity to work together. Now compare that with saying that I do paid search, SEO, email, web development, mobile app development, Python. We do scripting. We do all this sort of stuff. Like, that's too much. People get overloaded with choices, and they can't say, "Oh, great, you do paid search. I think I have a problem with paid search. Let's talk about that." But if you say we do everything, it's impossible for them to say, like, "Oh, like which problem can you fix for me? I don't know. There's too many choices." All right. Now compare I do paid search with I do paid search for e-commerce. Now, what did we just do right there? We actually just made your world smaller, which is good, right? Because if you're trying to offer everything to everyone, you get nothing. And if you're just saying I do paid search, great. But does that mean that you can work with somebody who's a building contractor, and somebody who's a SaaS company, and somebody who's an e-commerce retailer? Do you think you can help them all equally well? Well, chances are it's not true, because you think a particular way, you understand a particular industry, you have insight and experience that is more relevant in some places than others. So by making your world smaller and presenting your primary value in a more narrow way, first of all, it makes your outreach a lot easier, because you can not chase things that are outside of I do paid search for e-commerce. That means you don't have to go chase the SaaS company that you have a much lower chance of getting because you don't have any relevant experience. But listen to this. So if you do paid search for e-commerce, yeah, so the question there, so are you meaning niche specific? Yeah, so yes, niche specific, but also I think it goes sort of beyond that. And this is what this really is about, is just making sure that you're being effective, right? So you don't have to say no to any business, but you're going to have a much better chance of getting the business if you are more focused, because it just eliminates it when you think about this, where you're thinking I'm telling you to narrow your world. That's what I'm saying. I'm asking you to focus, right? Because if you have a focused target, you will have significantly more traction than if you try to serve everyone. Okay. And so there's a difference between narrowing and focusing. Focusing is good because it allows you to act with more efficiency. So here's something really important to understand. So why do customers buy? And you guys don't have to answer that. I'll answer it for you. So people buy because you can solve a significant business problem better, faster, or cheaper than they can do it themselves. Now, I really want you to listen to this. Better, faster, or cheaper. It's not and. So you can have a really good business by doing things better than someone else. You can have a really good business by doing things faster than someone else. You can have a really good business by doing things cheaper than someone else, but you don't have to do all of them, right? So this is me. I'm not telling you that you don't need to drop your price, but it's the thing that we really need to understand here is companies buy from you because you solve a significant business problem in a way that's either better, faster, or cheaper than they can do it themselves. Now, in order to understand the significance of a business problem, you really have to understand the business. And this is so challenging, especially if you are a technical sort. Like, you understand the technology, but you don't understand the business. And your buyer, by and large, understands the business and not the technology. So you have got to get smarter. And part of the reason why focus is important is this is a huge thing that you need to sort of ingest, own, and love all the time, is that the metric that matters most around accelerating your business is return on understanding. The better that you understand your client's world, the better you can position yourself to help them. And this is so important, because when a prospect is faced with a bunch of solutions, but all they understand is the problem, there's too much work in sort of saying, do I need a SharePoint developer, or is this a WordPress thing? I don't know. Or, do I need something custom? I don't know. Is there an off-the-shelf solution that works? So they don't know your world, right? They don't understand the depth and the breadth of what you understand. They understand their problems. And so they don't have the capacity to connect your solutions as the answer to their problems, because they just don't have the same, there's too big of a gap there, because all of you guys have, you've got educational experience, you've got work experience where you can, you understand how the machinery works, but your prospect understands their problem, not your solution. So you need to figure out how you can show that you understand their problem and say, oh yeah, we've got a solution for that. And so that's what, so at the end of the day, prospects buy solutions. They don't buy work. They don't buy technology. They don't buy hours. They buy solutions. And the only way that you can shape what you do in a way that they can understand and make a purchase is, honestly, is by understanding their business. Okay? Now, I know that's hard because it puts the work on you, and you have to extend beyond what you know, because you understand your business, but you've got to understand their business. And that's really crucial. All right. So there we go. Okay. And how to tell them this, any pitch format. We'll get to that in a minute. Like right now, what we're doing is like big picture stuff. So that we can make the outreach more effective. So we'll get to that later. Yeah, in just a minute or two. All right. Okay. Let's see. Where are we? So where did we go? All right. So that's why I do paid search for e-commerce is actually a good thing. But you provide a targeted services that delivers benefits to a particular audience. And again, I'm not telling you that you can't do other business. If you get an opportunity, go ahead, chase it, make some money, feed your families. But if you want to make things easier on you, focus a little bit, because it matters. All right. Now, if you compare, I do paid search for e-commerce, right? With this statement, I acquire intent-driven visitors that become new to file buyers for e-commerce retailers under $50 million. That's maybe a little too specific, but that's kind of the example. So this is a great way for you to understand what you do and for whom you do it, and in the context of what the client matters. So if we come back here to, I do paid search for e-commerce, that's cool, right? That's great. But that's pretty general, because that means that you could be working with a fashion retailer, or it means you could be working with, a supplement seller, whatever. And you're not going to understand each market as well. So if you really think about it this way, and if you really think about a target that you offer, you acquire intent-driven, so that's search visitors that become new to file buyers, right? So new to file buyers are people who never bought from a retailer before. And by the way, retailers love those people because they have the highest future value. And then you've focused your audience for e-commerce retailers under $50 million in revenue. So just by extending that, I do paid search for e-commerce, and you think about the ways that your possible client might think about it, is this. What do they want? They want people who know that they want to engage with something in their audience that they've never purchased them before, and that you understand the mechanics of a business that's under $50 million in revenue. Like that sort of really well qualifies you, even if you never say this out loud. If you have this in your head, like this qualifies you, and you can actually start to speak to someone who fits in this wheelhouse, who has a problem around paid search. And I hope that makes sense, because that is pretty complex stuff, but you've got to understand what your client needs. All right. So here's the big deal. Like, what's in it for the client, right? This is very hard, especially when you're selling technical development services, because they can be things, they can be very sort of infrastructure related, right? They may not have a clear and obvious financial benefit, or they may not have a clear and obvious revenue benefit. But you have, so if in order for you to be able to help your client understand why what you do matters to them, you've got to be able to understand the benefit that your service delivers. And the benefit, by the way, isn't we worked for 10 hours. Like nobody gives a shit, honestly, just to be honest, like nobody cares. The client wants to know, it's like, how does this solve my problem? Like, what do I, as your potential client, get out of this? So this is a like this is like pretty regular. All right. So, and I've got this. There's someone asking. So, if you've got a question that you want me to address right now, please put it in the Q&A, not into the chat, because I can't I can't see the chat at the moment because I'm in full screen. But like if you're an SEO provider, you might say like, hey, listen, Mr. Prospect, we work on page titles, H1 tag, keyword research, link building, page speed, XML sitemaps. Great, right? Super. Well, guess what? Shut up. Like nobody cares. That's all the stuff that you do, right? But no one really cares about the stuff that you do. What they care about is the benefit to them, all right? So what does the prospect want, and how can I deliver it through my service? Like that's the thing that you have to understand. So you need to connect all of these things that we've talked about. So you have to understand who your client is and what their problems are. You have to understand what your service is in the context your client can understand it. And now we need to show the value. Okay. Now, what often happens is when you want to show the value of what you do, you think of every problem, every possible client problem, as a nail, and you think of yourself as a hammer, right? So you were thinking like, okay, great, like, oh, this is you're an e-commerce retailer. The thing that you need more than anything else is SEO. Well, that may or may not be true, because there might be better ways to solve their problem. Or if you're a developer, you're like, oh, you know what we need to do? Listen, you got to get off Shopify and go to WooCommerce. It's the only solution. Well, that may be true, but like that is not really a significant. That's not really, like, not all things are the same. And again, if you're asking things in the chat, I can't see it, so please go over to the Q&A button. Those are different. And if you ask the Q&A, I can see that question. So I apologize, those 11 people who have asked questions in the chat. I just can't see it at the moment. So like not every problem is fixed the same way. So you have got to be able to figure out how to present your solution in a way that's relevant to your client. And so your solution, instead of being a hammer that hits a nail, it's much more like this. It's a bunch of pieces that fit together. So we're going to fit together the fact that you understand your client, you understand what they want, you understand you're able to put what you do in context for them. And now we're going to create a solution that fits all of that together. Okay. Now, what's in it for the client? When it comes right down to it, the thing that you are trying to do for the client is take them on a value journey. So when you talk to folks, what and they explain their existing state to you. Like they're showing that like I'm a car, right? And what you want to say is great. Like, oh, we have understood, like we deal with cars all the time. And what we are built to do, like the thing that we do is we take this car and we transform it into this awesome transformer, right? So I take where you are right now and I'm able to bring you to a place that is better. And that is so helpful because that allows the client to imagine what their situation might be after the fix has been done. Because honestly, nobody really cares about what you do to fix it. They just know that like right now I'm a car and I want to be a transformer and I don't know how to do it. And you can say, oh, great, cars. Like we understand cars. Through our process, we can actually turn you into a transformer. And when you're able to have that conversation with your client, then you're not talking about, do you need, Python or Sharp development? You're talking about, oh, like there's a gap between where you are and where you want to be. And through my services, I understand how to get you there. Right. And so that matters so much because that positions you as two things. Number one is it positions you as an expert in solving the problem. And number two is it puts you in a position of leadership because the client sees this gap between where they are and where they want to be and they don't know how to do it. But you can say, listen, like, yeah, this is what we do. We are purpose built to take cars and turn them into transformers. And that positions you as someone who can then lead the conversation. Whereas most of the time, if you're doing the giant list of SEO things you're going to do, you're not leading the conversation. You are holding up a sign that says, please hire me. And you have to sort of think about this from a global perspective. Businesses don't hire professional laborers, right? Like, even though a lot of you guys charge by the hour, like what businesses buy solutions that will help them solve problems, right? They don't care about hours. They generally don't care so much about process, but what really matters to them is the fact that they're hiring an expert who can solve the problem so they don't have to think about it anymore. And that's dramatic. All right. Now, so what we've done, we've figured out who we're focusing on. We understand how to contextualize what we do, and we understand how to show the value. Now, here's the biggest thing, especially as I said before, there's a bunch of folks on the call, and many of you. All right, so Rifat's asking, can we talk a little bit about pricing strategy during this economic situation? Yeah, we'll get to that in just a minute, Rifat. That's a great question. Thank you. So here's what we're here. So the why should I be hired thing. This is where we drive into pricing strategy, because again, for the most part, if you have done if you've done something really good around the first three of the W's, the price is less relevant. But understanding why you should be hired. So I'm sure that there are some like good math guys here. I was not a math guy, but in terms of why I should be hired, it's this: you've got to be able to express the amplitude of your solution, right? You've got to be able to say that, my solution drives this kind of value. And when you say like it drives this kind of value, it's got to be something measurable and valuable to the business. And so we have got to be able to understand the impact of what you do on the business, right? And so here's like the amplitude of your offer and your price. So when I say offer, by the way, I'm talking about the when you say like, great, we should work together, we're going to get X, Y, and Z done, and it's going to be $1,000, right? The amplitude of your offer has got to be in alignment with your measurable value. And this sometimes happens. Actually, it happens quite a bit, where a customer says, or a client says, hey, listen, I want this like super complicated thing done. And you're like, and you sort of spec it out and you think about it and you're like, oh, great, that's going to be 250 hours worth of work at $40 an hour, blah, blah, blah. Like, yeah, that's going to be $12,000. And your client's like, $12,000. Oh my God. Well, it's because the reason why the customer would have that sort of reaction, like that's way too expensive, is because we haven't sort of quantified what they're going to get out of it at the end, right? And so like that's why you guys need to understand the client business and what they're hoping to accomplish and how what you do can transform the business. Because if you're just talking about dollars per hour of labor, then you are making yourself a commodity. And if I can pay, if I can pay, if Refont's going to charge me $40 an hour, but Joanne, who lives next door, she's going to charge me $19 an hour. Like, it doesn't matter how much better Refont might be. Like, if I'm only thinking about price, obviously I'm going to hire Joanne, because if it takes her even, if it takes her less than twice the amount of time, I'm still coming out ahead. But if we want to think about it this way, if Refont says, hey, listen, so when we build this super complicated thing that you want, based on our experience and what you told me, you're going to be able to generate an extra $150,000 in revenue this year, or you're going to be able to save $150,000 in labor costs this year because we've just made this way more efficient. Or if you're going to get much better data that you can leverage, and we think that's going to cut your operational costs down by 7%, like then we've put some sort of concept of value on it, some sort of financial value. Or it could be time value, like we're going to cut down the time that you spend on this by 50%. Or it can be, the quality. Like, yeah, if we do this work, you're going to have a better quality outcome, and all of those things have an economic value. And so, if you don't understand your client's business well enough to be able to help them see the eventual benefit of what you can do, then you are stuck fighting for the lowest price per hour or the lowest cost. And listen, like, in a world that's as wacky as this one, all money is good money, but you don't want to be so aggressively devaluing your services that you're not able to make a profit, or that you can't, or you get a project and you can't apply the right resources to it. Because if you bid on things too cheaply, like what happens? Like, you can't get the talent you need to do it. Even if you're doing it yourself, like, and you're thinking, well, you know what, I will make up the difference. I'll just work harder. Well, at some point, if you're working 20 hours a day for not enough money, that is so not awesome. Like, because that's not sustainable. And it just puts you in a place where if you are working too much and getting too little, you're not making any progress. The best you are doing is you're stopping yourself from drowning. And if you are good at business development, you are able to grow your business almost at any time, because you were able to contextualize the value of what the client receives versus what you are able to charge for it. And that value can, again, be in revenue, or it can be in saved time, or it can be in saved resources, or it can be in how much money they save. There's a lot of ways to sort of show the ultimate value of what you do so that you are justifying your price. And that is super, super important. So, Rifat, to get right down to where you are, your very question, which was, should you offer more for the same price, or should offer a discount? So, like, discounts, yeah, I mean, discounts are fine, but to be honest, like, most discounts are fake, because like at the end of this presentation, like, I'm going to offer you guys a discount on my cold email book, like, and that discount's fake. I sell it for $47. I'm going to offer it to you for $19. That's cool. That's awesome, right? That's a good deal. But the discount's kind of fake. It just means I can charge someone else $47 for it. So like, discounts aren't as powerful as you think. Discounts are only powerful if if you're in a directly competitive situation and if you've got two options that are equally good, and they both cost $1,000, and then you're like, hey, you know what? We really want to invest in your business, so I want to give you a 20% discount. Like like on individual circumstance, that might help. But saying that we normally charge $150 an hour, but because of COVID-19, we're charging $37 an hour, I think that's not going to help because nobody's going to believe that. And also, you don't want to discount that much because that's cheapening your value, honestly. I mean, and that's really not what we're after here. Okay, so the amplitude of your offer is going to be in line with your measurable value. So in order to know what the measurable value is, you've really got to be able to understand your client business. Now, I really want to come back to this again. Clients buy because they believe you can solve a problem better, faster, or cheaper than they can do it themselves. So in some respects, good economic situation or bad economic situation, people are still buying based on the believability of the results that they expect you to get. Now, in the marketing world, here's what happens all the time. And by the way, we're gonna I'm gonna Hyphager, you just asked a question about how we do the business development part of it, how we do the outreach. We're going to get to that right after this slide, as a matter of fact. But I really, guys, want you to think about this. So clients buy because you can do something better, faster, or cheaper. Like, you got to own that. And so think about what you do and how it makes your clients, the results for your client, better, faster, or cheaper. Right. And that's the value that they are buying. Because what really happens is, like, as long as your price, if the price that you charge makes it attractive relative to the return that they believe you can get, then the price is really not an issue. Now, here's the problem. And this happens in the marketing world all the time, especially in companies that are working with smaller agencies. Agencies are working with smaller customers. Is you get these case studies where you've got somebody who's not doing any marketing, or they're doing a bad job of marketing, and then you come in and you do a good job, and you're like, we got them a 12,000% increase in revenue. And you're thinking, like, God, we are awesome. We're so good at this. And then you talk to a company who's got okay marketing. You're like, yeah, we normally drive 12,000% increases in revenue. Well, that other company is going to be like, hey, dude, like, that's the law of small numbers. That's not real. That's fake. That was a mistake. And so you need to, again, really, you need to be able to understand the individual client business so that you can project out a credible benefit. Because here's a perfect example. In my last agency, it is like 2014, during the holiday season, we were working with a $1 billion Canadian retailer. During the holiday season, we were driving 20-to-1 return on ad spend with paid search, right? So they would spend $1 in paid search and get $20 back. First of all, crazy good. Like, those results were fantastic. And like, I could have gone, like, it would have been easy for me to go to another company and like, hey, we drive 20-to-1, 20-to-1 return on ad spend for really big companies. Well, guess what? Like, we did it once, and that was a perfect circumstance. Like, there was all sorts of things that were coming together there that made that kind of crazy return possible. So although that was an actual result, it's not a credible result. So what we need to do is you need to sort of figure out how to make a credible result, so that way your price can be fair. Okay. All right. Now, my friends, if you just need to think about this, this is about benefit and price. And so the bigger your benefit, the bigger your price can be. But if you were going to offer extraordinary benefit at a really high price, you're going to have a tough time selling that because it's a high price and people are very, very, very conservative around projecting the eventual benefit. Conversely, if you offer a benefit that's too small, even if it's really cheap, if the benefit is too small, it doesn't matter. So if you can say like, we're going to generate, we're only going to charge you $1 and you're going to generate another $200 a month in revenue, like that would be good. That's a great return, but $200 a month in revenue for a big company does not matter. So if the benefit is too small, it doesn't matter what the price is, no one's going to buy. And it doesn't matter how big the benefit is. If the price is too high, nobody's going to buy, right? So you got to find somewhere right in the middle where the benefit is attractive and the price is reasonable. And that's really, that's your guiding metric right there. Attractive benefit, reasonable price. And that way you don't have to offer discounts, right? Or necessarily offer more. You just have to make sure that the benefit is desirable and the price is fair. And then when you get into negotiation, there's a bunch of other things you can do. But anyways. Okay. Oh, I lost my, all right. Okay. So the deeper you understand your customer, here we go. Oh, no, hold on. You know what? I'm gonna jump into another presentation, guys. Yeah, I'm gonna open up another presentation here. This is one that I just did. Here we go. Now we're gonna talk very specifically, my friends, about and talk very specifically about how this is a presentation I gave yesterday to someone else. You'll see a lot of the same slides. Come on, I'm trying to get through this. Okay, here we go. Come on. My computer's being slow. All right. So so this is all about lead gen, right? So for the majority of you, the best places for you to engage, and this is sort of the stack of lead gen opportunities, right? And so there's kind of 3 tiers to it. So there's marketplaces like Upwork and FreeUp and TopTal. And then there's social media and cold outreach. So that's Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram and cold email stuff. And then there's paid advertising. And then there's what the big boys do, right? That's integrated content and joint ventures and sponsorships and all that kind of stuff. Like, let's take that totally off the table. That is not for you guys at this point, because it requires planning and it takes time. Because if you're going to do a sponsorship of something, it can take months to put together. But so what we're going to think about right now are the bottom 3 on this totem pole. All right. So the bottom, there's got another question here, I think. And what do you think about offering a potential client? I don't care about money at this stage. I just want to build a long-term relationship with you. So Mohammed, yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, that's a noble sentiment. I don't care about money at this stage. But that puts you at a significant disadvantage, because if you don't care about money at this stage, that means that at some point you're going to care about money, and your customer is thinking like, I'm going to get screwed here. Like, they're going to charge me $10 an hour now, but at some point they're going to say, oh, great, now it's $100. So I don't, the concept of offering cheap introductory services or free services, you never get out of that, right? Because if you offer your services at $0, it means that they're worth $0. It doesn't matter the return I get from them. You don't value them enough to charge me for them. And then if you're talking about giving it like an introductory discount, sometimes that can be effective, but the way you create long-term relationships is not by lowering your price. The way you create long-term relationships is by helping the client accomplish their goals, and doing what you say you're going to do. So I'm much better to start out your relationship as equals. And by the way, this is a little bit of mindset stuff here for you guys. So even though you think the client has all the power, or the prospect has all the power because they're the ones who say yes or no, you're not subservient to them. They're not better than you are. They are, you are peers. Like, they do their thing, you do your thing. You both have your individual expertise. You don't have to subvert yourself to them, right? That, like, this is, and that's a big deal. And certainly I have seen this. um I've seen this. I've seen this a lot when working with international folks, where they are afraid to charge fair value or ask for money because they feel like they're either going to lose an opportunity, or someone's going to yell at them or something. Listen, good businesses and good partners know that you need to be paid fairly in order to do what you need to do. And if you get people who are constantly trying to negotiate you down, or trying to grind out the last bit of a win, like, they're not going to be good partners. And so it doesn't matter how cheap your service is, you're never going to have a long-term partnership with them, because they don't respect you. And so you are bringing something of value to the table, and they have to pay for that. That's only fair. And partnerships only happen when things are fair. Okay. All right. So let's get back to the lead gen stuff here. So marketplaces, we're gonna jump right into that. So marketplaces are great, and guys, if you guys aren't on FreeUp, you should be. Um, Sorry, on Upwork, you should be. And then there's other places like TopTel. And there's a sort of a growing number of these sort of labor marketplaces. The awesome thing about these places are that those are places where the buyers are ready to go. The buyers know what they want, and they're ready to pay. They're just looking for the right resource, that's really powerful. And Tom, Joel, you have asked, what is the short-term marketing strategy? That's what we're talking about right now. And then Shafayat, you're asking how to focus deeply on a specific niche for a long time. I'll answer that question super quickly. So focusing on a niche for a long time, you don't have to focus on it for a long time. What you have to do is focus on it enough so that you're really good at it and you're kind of expert at it. And then if you're the company leader, you can actually sort of hand the work in that particular niche off to part of your staff. And then you can go create another expertise. And so then you can have two niches to work on. We can sort of, I mean, that would sort of be like an individual discussion, but like picking a niche, by the way, is not forever. Picking a niche is all you're trying to do is pick a niche so you can get enough traction so that you have a stable business, and then you can sort of branch out and go into other markets. So niches are not forever. Niches are a great strategy to help you get from where you are to stable. All right, now back. So and Tajmal, we are talking about marketing strategy right now, this very second. So this is oh no, we have one more question, I think. Here we go. Here we go. And then Sharuk, you're asking how to maintain long-term relationships with clients. Well, it's really simple. And I'm saying, actually, I'm gonna so these things are there's a bunch of questions coming in. I'm going to pick a bunch of these up at the end. Okay. So if I don't get to you right now, I will get to you at the end. So we're going to talk right now about effort-based lead gen. So effort-based lead gen means you're not spending money, right? It means you're putting in effort and time. And we're going to put this into a couple of different categories, 4 different categories. And we're going to talk about Upwork as a proxy for all marketplaces. And then we've got Facebook, LinkedIn, and cold email. And I hope you appreciate the cute little polar bear, because I think it's cute. All right. Anyways, so we're going to talk about Upwork. You should have a personal profile, and you should have a business profile. You need to have both. And I pulled out this as this is like a great sort of high quality. This is the high quality sort of presentation of a personal profile. If you look, if you look at his headline, maximize your business with modern iOS software engineering. So very quickly, you understand what this guy does. He works, he's an Apple mobile developer, right? And he wants you to maximize your business. So clearly he's thinking that, clearly this is about, revenue and opportunity. So this is not about fixing stuff. So he's done a really nice job of providing benefit and specificity in his profile. Really, 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 really meaningful, right? Because often on Upwork, when people put out jobs, they are barraged with thousands of responses. Many of them are not awesome. So the better you can make your profile, the better chance you have of getting getting the business. So having a great headline is super, super important. And so it should sort of talk about what you do and the benefit that your client gets out of it. Saying things like, expert Python developer. Well, great. Like that tells you what you do, but no one that it doesn't tell anyone what they're going to get from working with you. So I would be, I would be my headline if I were a Python developer. I might say something like, Python developer with expertise in creating high performance, high revenue applications. Or if you're focused on ETL stuff, creating creating high performance databases that maximize revenue or something, sort of putting it in the idea and this concept of benefit to the client. So what you do plus some notion of benefit. Now, what this guy has done, which is really pretty quite brilliant, is he has led with testimonials. So he's got 2 testimonials here that talk about how good they are. And those can be testimonials from people you worked on Upwork with, or not. They can be testimonials you have from other people, but it's important that they be good. And because that's sort of, because as you know, when you get 1,000 different responses, like you don't know who's quality and who's not. So you often rely on third-party credibility. So a testimonial from someone else can really be helpful and get people to read through your profile. And there's no menu of stuff that I do. So, so this is not the Hello Sir profile where you've got 50,000 different options. Like there's a bunch of stuff that this guy does, this software engineer, right? But he's focusing on the value that he brings rather than the stuff that he does. Okay? And that's really, really super important, because it is so easy to focus on what you do rather than the value that you bring. Now, when we talked about the proposal for Upwork, the proposal is about the client and what they want to accomplish. It's not about you. Now, often the requests on Upwork are not very well articulated, but you should be able to sort of understand the lingo, so you can understand what people want. So you need to, as best you can, with the limited information available, is to understand their needs and what you think they want to accomplish, and position your services as a solution. Now, positioning it as a solution you can't say something like, I drive revenue, because that's not a solution. If they're saying like, we need someone to take over our Facebook ad management, the appropriate response is something like, we think that, your Facebook ads could be converting, or, could be reaching a bigger audience, converting better. And we have got some really specific experience in scaling Facebook campaigns. Here's a case study where we did that exact same thing for somebody in your industry. And if you don't have a case study in their industry, you can share a story about how you solved a similar problem for someone who's unrelated to them. Here's a perfect example. My last agency, we did a lot of work with retailers, and especially multi-channel retailers. So they were these people with storefronts. And so we had a lot of expertise in sort of driving both online traffic and in-store traffic. We got an introduction to somebody who had a bunch of medical offices. And we didn't have any experience working with them, but I took the experience we had with driving traffic to retailers, and I told a story about how that could actually work exactly the same way for the medical office, for the medical offices, because it was the same tactics, different market, but similar tactics. So I was able to create an exact corollary. And so even though we had zero experience in this business, we were able to win that business because we were able to show that our expertise that we had developed in our process, in our way of thinking, really fit incredibly well on this, in this business. So that's a really powerful strategy, and that's how you can compensate for not having a specific experience with the kind of client. And if you have no experience at all, what you can do is you can use third-party stories to help. So if someone says, we need to, we need to scale our Facebook ads, and you don't have experience that matches, you can say, based on what we understand, we think that the strategy put together by whatever, by like big giant agency that they will never be able to afford, and here's the basic strategy. We think, based on their experience, we know that's the right thing for you, and that's how we're going to approach it. So even if you don't have experience, you can say, like, listen, like, I have a plan, right? You may not get that business, but if you can say you've got a plan, and that it's thoughtful and relevant to their business, that is so much better than saying, we drive traffic or whatever. Okay. Now, here's an awesome thing. You can name drop if you've worked with any sort of notable company inside or outside of their industry, and if you have worked with them in your current role or previous roles. Like, you're not claiming them as a client. All you're doing is talking about your expertise. So I can tell people that, that I have worked with Nike, and I've worked with, I worked with, the grabbing someone else. So I worked with Nike. I've worked with Best Buy. I've worked with, worked with Rocket Internet. I've worked with T-Mobile. I've worked with Deutsche Telekom, and those are not things that I've done necessarily on my own. Some of them were. A couple of those were from my own agencies, but that other experience are places that I have worked as part of a team. And so, if someone asked me about that, when I worked with Nike, I was with a company called PM Digital. We did a lot of great stuff with Nike. I handle all their SEO. That's cool, right? But the fact that I have that experience, I can claim that experience. I'm not saying that they are a customer, but if you can name drop great companies that you've worked with to bolster your expertise, to bolster your credibility, that's really, really important, because especially in a marketplace, things are not very transparent. And even if someone's got a good rating, there's some significant chance that you're going to get screwed as a client. So people have to be very careful. And so if you can add that third-party credibility by name dropping other people you've worked with, that's great. Now, over time, as you build your expertise in presenting proposals on Upwork, you can start to use templated proposals like, this is our approach, or this is our team, this is our company, or this is how we provide reporting, or whatever. But you always want to make the goals and opportunities and the strategy piece of your proposal specific to the client, because that will make you stand out. Because there are so many companies on Upwork, because it's kind of a crapshoot, where they send the same proposal off to everybody. And, they might get some business, but if you guys are struggling to sort of emerge here, you need to be able to be specific to your client, leverage your return on understanding, because people will hire people who understand their problems. So if you're a smart business owner, hiring somebody who understands your problems is better than somebody who has a great process who doesn't understand your problem. And the smart businesses know that. All right. Okay. Now let's get on to the next page. So any questions about Upwork? or TopTal. And if you guys are not in both of those places, there are other marketplaces. Some of the names are escaping me at the moment. But if you are a freelancer, especially a technical developer, you should be in all of these places, because that is a spot where, that's where easy business that requires less selling ability and less marketing ability comes into play. All right, now let's talk about Facebook. So I think everybody here is on Facebook, because because that's how this all came together. I suggest that you turn your Facebook profile into mostly a business focused profile. So not a business page, but you start talking about business on your Facebook page for this reason. Number one, business pages have like zero organic reach these days. And so Facebook just wants you to pay for stuff. But personal profiles and group activity actually have really good reach still. And so if you start talking about business stuff on your personal profile, you're actually going to get a lot more visibility. Now, does the fact that I mostly talk about business on my Facebook profile, does that mean that I don't post other stuff? No, I will post cute stuff about my kids, or I read this really funny article the other day that I posted. So it can still be you and human, but if you start creating content around the things that you know how to do, the people and you're intentional about connecting with people who would be relevant customers, then you are able to actually get your expertise in front of them for free. Now, that's just step one. Step two, my friends, is why do we want to do this? So what you want to do is you want to be generous with information. So relative to the COVID-19 disasters, there's a bunch of, in the United States, there's a bunch of government money that was available, and I started sharing that information with other groups. And so this happens to be and you share things, you share your expertise, just like I'm sharing expertise with you now. You can do this on your personal profile. You can create live videos. You can show demonstrations, all that sort of stuff. So you can build your expertise, and you're generous with the information, right? And then if you can jump into Facebook groups, or when people are asking questions on their profile, especially if you have connected to people who are in your target audience, then you can start saying smart stuff. Now, what's going to be awesome if you say smart stuff and you've got a bunch of content to back it up, guess what, sports fans? You have just become an expert, right? And that's really powerful, because that's what clients want to hire. Now, why do you do this stuff? Why do you give away information for free, and why do you say smart stuff? So that you're an expert, and then this happens. So when someone has a question or something you can help with, you start a conversation with them. You don't pitch them. You start a conversation, and I cannot tell you how many times I get, someone sends me a friend request, and then the very next thing they're sending me a pitch that's completely irrelevant to me. That makes me so angry. So never pitch in a conversation. What you need to do is, when you see somebody that you can help, and they have expressed the fact that they need help, or they're asking questions that make you think that you might be able to help, then you can message them and have a conversation. Don't pitch them. And the messages can be things like, hey, I saw your post about whatever thing, I fixed that problem for someone else. Do you want to know how I did it? Or, can we talk about it, or whatever? And you want to have a conversation, because you should not pitch. You should not pitch over Messenger, or without context, or without permission, because no one's receptive to a pitch that they didn't ask for. What you want to do in these discussions is not get someone to say yes. Like, you want to get them to believe that you are worth talking to, and then you have a phone call or a meeting with them. That's how it works. Pitching somebody over Messenger rarely works. You will find 23,000 people saying, oh, that's the totally way that you do it. That, it's a chatbot and blah, blah, blah. No, business is done by people who are connecting with each other. And so you need to connect with them and get permission to pitch before you do so. Now, what happens, they get on your calendar, you have a successful conversation, you were able to sign them up, money goes into Stripe, and then you get a happy face, right? That's what we're after here. But there are some rules to Facebook pitching. So never, ever, ever pitch without permission. If you are sending out friend requests and immediately saying, do you need graphic design services? Like, you're just wasting your time and pissing people off. That's useless. What you need to do is connect with a lot of people. You get 5,000 friends on Facebook. If you fill that up with 2,500 people who are in your target audience, and you are in groups and you participate and say smart stuff, there's going to be opportunity for you to pitch. And like a great way to pitch is when someone has a problem, say, hey, can I help you with that? Or like, oh, I've got some information about that. And then you start a conversation. You can see if you can help them. Now, the other thing, this is like a really big rule, huge rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Nobody wants to be pitched without permission. Nobody wants something that's irrelevant to them. Nobody wants some sort of high pressure, and more like nobody wants like, hi, how are you doing today? Right? Without context, right? So you can't pitch without context. You can't create a relationship without context. The way that you create relationships on Facebook is you have some interaction with someone first, making a friend request, saying, hi, how are you doing today? And then waiting for me to respond, and then pitching. Waste of time, makes people angry, and it makes people they'll block you. So be smart about this. I know that you want the business, but you wanting business does not create an obligation in someone else. That is so important to know. So you've got to sort of create a relationship and get permission to engage. Thirdly, I guess, don't try to close until you know you can help them. That matters so much. So this goes back to the hammer and nail thing. Like, so if I'm saying like, yeah, I don't understand how this WordPress thing works, and you are whatever, you're a Python developer, like, great, cool. You might be able to help me like figure out the WordPress thing because you're smart. But if you try to close me on like an ongoing relationship, an ongoing WordPress relationship, and that's not who you are, whatever, and you don't know that you can help me, that is a great way to not have a long-term relationship. And the last rule in Facebook is don't be an asshole. Like, that is huge. If you're a jerk, if you're just a nonstop pitch machine and all you're doing is trying to take from everybody and not give, guess what? It's not going to work for you, because Facebook is all about people connecting and understanding that one can help the other, and then you create a business relationship. It's not a pitch fest. And if you continue to pitch without permission, first of all, you're not going to be successful. And secondly, the entire platform becomes less effective for people who are doing it well, because there are people who don't respect the basic rules of being a human being. All right. Okay. Now we're on to LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is all the rage these days. It's huge. Like, everybody's on LinkedIn. LinkedIn automation of, appointment setters for $147 a month. Great. So the reason why LinkedIn is hot right now is because for most people, Facebook is a freaking disaster, because marketers and people trying to sell stuff have turned a lot of Facebook into a big toxic zone, where you can't get a friend request without knowing that you're going to get some sort of irrelevant pitch. So, and marketers, by the way, eventually ruin everything. But people are jumping into LinkedIn because it's new and fresh, and a lot of people haven't been on it. But LinkedIn and Facebook are different. LinkedIn has its own rules. So like, so pay attention. This is super important. This is huge, as a matter of fact, because I'm going to unlock some secrets of doing business on LinkedIn that matter. Okay. Okay. So first of all, let's talk about your profile. And this is like your home base, because you know that everybody checks out your profile, right? That's huge. You know, when you make a connection request, everybody checks out your profile. And so normally Facebook defaults to showing your current position as your headline. Don't do that. Just like our Upwork profile, put some help, you know, help contextualize you for your prospect, right? And so in my headline, so it says I'm a 3-time agency owner and now I'm a digital marketing agency coach. Great. So what did I do there? I showed my expertise and I showed how I help. Great. That's exactly what we did, right? That's exactly what I want, because I want people to immediately know, like, oh, this is relevant to me or not. Now, in your about section, you have 2,000 characters. You should try to use them all. Now, I don't want you to do a giant list of stuff that you do, because we've already talked about how that doesn't work, right? That's not like, that's putting the onus on, putting the onus on your client, and that's not fair to them, because they don't know how to connect what you do with what they need. So in your profile, here's how I've approached it. So I put in these bona fides, right? So I show people, like, yeah, I founded 3 agencies, sold 2, crashed 1. Awesome. And now what I do, so I've basically qualified myself by saying, hey, listen, chucklehead, chances are I have way more experience at doing this than you do. I am an expert. Now, because I want people to know how I help, and so that they can identify themselves, is I ask them a bunch of questions. You know, do you find yourself doing these things? So basically what I'm doing here is I'm trying to qualify the people that look at my profile, so that they know whether or not that I can help them. So for instance, if you are a solo freelance graphic designer who's making $1,000 a month, I can't help you, or you can't afford for me to help you, right? And my solutions work better for bigger companies. So I could help you, but you're not the place where I can help you best, right? So that's why I'm sort of asking all of these questions, because I really want to make sure that the people I talk to, I can help, because I don't want to waste my time or their time. All right. Now, here is like the way, so LinkedIn doesn't have the same sort of group phenomenon as much as Facebook does. So the place where you show your expertise is by sharing interesting, useful, helpful content. And so this is something I wrote about cold email that had some empiric data that I thought was really helpful. I'm not trying to sell anything here. You know, this post is just about some data that I found. So what I'm doing here is, like, I'm establishing my expertise. So I did that in my profile, and then by sharing good quality data or opinion or thought, whatever, I'm actually sort of establishing my expertise at scale, right? And then obviously, just like Instagram, finding the right hashtags for LinkedIn matters, but you want to go easy on the sales part, because, like, nobody's buying from your LinkedIn post. It's true. Like, they're not buying, right? I can promise, like, nobody reads your LinkedIn pitch and suddenly goes to your website and buys something. It just never happens. So you think about your content as priming your audience, establishing yourself as an expert, establishing as you having something to say. Now, I know we're talking about business development here, but I just said, like, go easy on the sales part. Yeah, totally. So listen up here. You don't want to be this guy. You don't want to be the nonstop pitch fest. You don't want to be the people who have ruined Facebook for the rest of us. You don't want to be like, hey, I'm just going to pitch you all the time. Don't care. I'm here to take from you. That's not effective. You have to give. You actually have to make a contribution to your audience by putting up good content. And if you're just a nonstop pitch machine, people tune you out and they get pissed off and they block you. All right. So even though this, so I've got this set up as automated, I make really human introductions. And here's an actual introduction that went out. So we've got a couple of mutual interests. I noticed that you're in the UK, so basically I've said, mutual interest. That's true because that's how we're scrubbing these people. She's in the UK. I note that so it's clear that she understands that I've been thinking about her, and then I try to be funny and saying I'm American, but don't hold that against me. And then I actually give my qualifications. I'm a 3-time agency founder. And then I try to be nice, like we need to stick together even more in these crazy times. And even though that's automated, like it's a pretty human thing, right? Like I'm not trying to sell anything here. All I'm trying to do is create connection, because the only thing we're trying to do, guys, is create conversations. And so what we really want is this. We want a lot of connections. So you can have an unlimited number of connections on LinkedIn. Actually, there is a limit to, I think it's 25,000, but you have a lot of connections. And if you're putting out awesome content, and by the way, not following up a connection with a giant freaking pitch, like don't do that. It's just bad. And I really want you to just don't do it. If anybody on this call does it tomorrow or later today, I'm going to be pissed and I'm going to come find you and yell at you. All right. But when you have a lot of connections and you put out awesome content, like fine, like your audience, those people in your connections, they start thinking like, oh, thank God, finally there's a genius that can help me. And for those of you guys who don't know, that's Albert Einstein, genius guy. Okay. All right. But this is what you want. Like you want a big network, great content. And yeah, you can sell sometimes in your content, but you can't make it a nonstop pitch fest. But if you really need to think of the content that you share on LinkedIn is really about putting together your expertise so that when people have a need, like you're someone that they think of, right? And then when you put those together, big network, great content, this is what it looks like. So on Wednesday of this week, this is real. I'll tell you, like this guy's name is Charlie. I don't know Charlie. We are connected because we connected, I think on Monday. And by Wednesday, he reached out to me and said, hey, Tim, can we chat? We've got a sales call later today. So, and that's how it works. Like, I didn't chase him and like, oh man, like here's like 575,000. Can I send you things that I can do? Can I send you a proposal? No, didn't do that at all. He said, can we chat? I said, love to, because I can tell right away that he fits my profile because I checked out his profile. I thought that he was worth talking to. And I said, awesome, great. Here's my calendar link. And we set up an appointment. And that's how this works. That's what matters is we connected. He saw my content, saw my expertise, and then we decided to engage. I didn't try to sell him. I didn't pitch. I didn't push him off. I didn't try to take anything from him. I didn't ask him stupid questions like, what's the biggest problem that's holding your business back today? Like, that's a shitty question too, right? You can ask that question after you get permission, where you start talking about other stuff and you get permission to ask that question. But like, this is what happens. This is how it works. Connection, great content. The requests come to you. All right. Now, I want to talk about cold email. So Facebook and LinkedIn are cool, but they tend to there's different rules, and sometimes it's hard to get visibility, and you may not know exactly how to get to people, right? Or they don't ignore you, especially on LinkedIn. LinkedIn messaging is much more kind of vital than then Facebook messaging. So people respond to it less frequently. They engage less in it. But cold email, by the way, cold email is like my favorite thing in the whole world because it scales, right? It scales, it's easy, and you can actually create great relationships. And if you guys connect with me on LinkedIn, and maybe Facebook too, I think I posted it there, but I'll tell you a great story about how cold email that I sent in 2013. That cold email started a business relationship that lasted for 2 years, and then maybe 2.5 years, and then just last week, that company asked me to join their board of directors, and I wouldn't have had that opportunity if, in fact, I didn't send a cold email in 2013. So cold email works. All right. So there's a bunch of different kinds of cold email. My favorite by far is this thing that I call the rifle shot. The rifle shot is when you pick a prospect, somebody that you know you can help. You understand something about their business. You understand their problems, and you can help them. Like you craft an email that's specific to them and you send it. Yeah. Is it labor intensive? Absolutely. But let me tell you a great story. So this is in 2009. So it was actually, so I started my second agency. I started in 2008 in the midst of the economic fallout. And in 2009, we get acquired by another agency. But listen to this story, because this will give you hope, my friends. So I was traveling an awful lot for my job then. I was the vice president of SEO and social media at a large performance agency. And I was traveling. I was on a plane 3 times a week. And I'm only a Mac user, only, I've never owned a Windows computer. And so I would bring my Mac to all of these boardrooms, these conference rooms. And sometimes I had a problem, like not everybody had the right connectors for me. So I went to, there was a bunch of small projectors that had just come on the market, and I was looking to buy one. I went to Dell because Dell had just released a mini projector that I thought was pretty good, and I was checking it out. And so I'm on the Dell site, and again, not a Windows guy, so I never shopped at Dell. But as I was looking through Dell, looking through all of these opportunities to purchase something, I noticed an SEO thing that was wrong, and I kept on seeing it repeated. And I thought, like, holy crap, they don't know this. And I ran SEO for a big agency, and I saw this problem. And then I investigated the problem, and I saw that it was all over the world for Dell. And Dell's a big, giant, humongous company. So here's what I did is I went on LinkedIn. I found the guy who is in charge of global SEO. His name is Andreas Voss. We are still friends. We still talk to this day. And I crafted an email saying this. Basically, the email said this, like, hey, Andreas, we don't know each other, so I apologize for the cold reach out. But I was shopping for a mini projector, this one. And I was on your site, and I saw these things. I saw these particular issues that I think are probably having a significant negative impact on your product page SEO. I've got some ways that I can help you with that. If you're open to a conversation, let me know and we'll set something up. That was it. That was the email. Nothing crazy, nothing super fancy. I didn't try to sell him on anything. I just said, hey, I noticed this and I've got some ideas. If you want to talk about it, let's connect. Well, so what happened? He responded. We had a 15-minute conversation, and that turned into probably 3 or 4 presentations and a couple trips to Round Rock, Texas. And my agency signed a $2 million contract, right? Like a really big contract from an email that I just sent. Like that's pretty freaking awesome, right? Like that's the power of cold email, right? So this rifle shot email, that's my favorite one because it's very personal, it's very intense, and it's meaningful because you're trying to solve a problem. We've got some other ones like a connection request, like, hey, like we're both in the same industry. This is cool. I'm just trying to like connect with everybody that I can, sort of like what you do on LinkedIn. You can send out a connection request. Like you get pretty good responses to those, honestly. Um, this one, and both of those are actually very personal. But here's what, this is where we get into more scale. So you can provide some value and create some trust. And I'm going to show you specific examples of that in just a minute. Or you can just send out a general like intro email. Those tend to be less personalized. You have to sort of send out more of them to start conversations. But all of these options work. Now, what I often hear from my clients when I'm saying, hey, dude, you need to do some cold email, you can be like, they're like, I sent 50 emails and nobody responded. Yeah, so what? Shut up. Like, this is the big leagues. It is kind of a numbers game, but when's the last time you responded to a cold email? Like, it doesn't happen all that often unless the cold email is really good and it talks to you specifically. All right, so the successful ingredients of cold outreach: you're not trying to make a sale. All you're trying to do is get a reply. It's got to be interesting. Like, it cannot just be a laundry list of things that you do. It has to be interesting to the recipient. And guess what? They don't know you, you're not interesting. So you've got to create interest. So you need to talk about them, the problem that you see, or an opportunity that you see, or something that has happened with their company. There's got to be some trigger, and you've got to use that to be interesting. It also has to quell doubt. Now, it means you've got to push the doubt away. And the way that you do that is sort of by talking about your experience, but also acknowledging the fact that this is a cold email. You can be like, hey, this is a cold email. Sorry, not sorry. And just sort of get the awkwardness out of the way, because if you were inappropriately friendly with somebody, their guard gets up. It also has to provide benefit. So there's got to be some reason. They have to get something out of reading and responding to this email. And obviously the pleasure of meeting you is a big benefit, but they don't appreciate that yet. So you've got to provide some value, some insight, some information, some sort of content, whatever. There's all a report, whatever. There's a lot that you can do. As a matter of fact, for those of you who signed up for my Facebook group, you notice there's three questions that I ask when you come in. The third one is I've got this report that I've got fee data from over 100 agencies and what they charge. Would you like it? Right. And so that is also part of my cold outreach. We'll see that in just a second. It's not a single shot. So sending one email to a person one time will not get you business. I mean, sometimes it does. The guy, the Dell guy, there's that one email that happens to spark the conversation, but often it takes a couple of times. It probably takes 2 or 3 times for someone to actually read and engage with your emails, because everybody gets a lot of emails. And so you've got to think about this as a multi-part conversation. And it also asks questions and permissions. So it asks questions like, would you like to talk about this? And the permission would be like, the permission would be like, if you say yes, like, I'll put my ideas in a 3-minute video that I'll send over to you. Right. So you're asking permission, because you're not otherwise it's very aggressive and it feels intrusive and people pull back. So you really have to think about what you would like to get in a cold email that would make you respond. And actually that's a fantastic way. If you show this to your significant other and if you show a cold email to their significant other and they're like, oh, that's gross, or I wouldn't respond to that, or it's not clear, or that feels desperate, then guess what? You need to rewrite your email. All right. So here's my simple email framework. And we're going to go through actually the very thing that I sent out. So, interest in intro and value. That's the first contact. On day 6, so not every day, but a week later, I follow up with them and give them the opportunity to have me leave them alone. And then the third one is, I've got something interesting. Can I send it to you? And then in 90 days after the first contact, if they have not responded, I'm going to send them an email. It's the 9-word email, which is, you guys should just type in 9-word email. You'll into Google, you'll find it. But basically, it's an email that says, "Are you still interested in whatever your thing is?" So are you still interested in graphic design? Are you still interested in growing your sales? Are you still interested in saving time or whatever? And that's it. And that you would not believe how effective that is, because often when people have ignored your emails, um, or you're not taken action to solve their problem, they don't take action, so they're still in the same spot even though they didn't take action. And a simple reminder in 3 months can be like, they can be like, oh yes, I'm still thinking about that, maybe this is a great time to act on it. And by the way, that 90-day email is a great thing to send it to people that you have talked to but did not hire you. All right. Okay. So this is the actual email campaign that I sent out, that was moving. So basically it says, hi, I was on your website. That's my trigger, and that fantastic picture of me there. I've got a VA who actually puts a screenshot of their website into the laptop frame. Then I give my qualifications. I've founded some agencies. I made a bunch of mistakes. Now this is what I do. And now I acknowledge the fact that it's cold email and say like, hey, listen, I know you have no idea who I am and stranger danger and all that kind of stuff, but here's some content that, that will show you that I know what I'm talking about. And they're free. And then if you ever want to chat about how to grow your agency, that's great. That's it. Now, a week later, I send them send this message like, hey, I've got a coffee mug with your name on it, and as you can see, it says that's my meeting with Wes mug. I thought that was really freaking cute. And then I just wanted to know if you got if you found the resource I sent the other day to be helpful, would you be open to a quick virtual coffee? And it's okay if you're not interested. Great, that's fine. And also, but I also say, like, if you feel like your business is running smoothly right now, and actually nobody feels like their business is running smoothly, so very few people opted out here. I think only one or two. And then again, a week later, I say like, I forgot to mention this the other day. I did a recent study on what agencies charge. Same thing I did in my Facebook group. And what's cool is this email, which is now 2 weeks after my initial conversation. This email has like a 30% response rate. So of all the people that open this email, 30% of them respond. And that, by the way, is fantastic. Okay, and Omar, you have to ask about cold email. What do you have to ask about cold email? Let me know. And then Sharuk, we've got the long-term relationship with the client. We'll get to that in just a second. All right. So paid lead gen. So for most of you, this is going to be out of reach because you don't have the resources, and you're going to be able to get what you need out of marketplaces, Facebook, LinkedIn, and cold email. But paid lead gen is hard. So here's a cheat sheet for you. Should you be using paid lead gen? Do you have a clear target? Like, do you know who you serve? Do you have a clear offer? Do you know what you're selling them? Can you close 20% of the opportunities that come in front of you? And do you have a follow-up plan? If your answer is no to any of those questions, don't waste your money on paid traffic, because it's not going to help. Okay, because you're just going to be wasting your money, especially that close rate. If your sales pitch is not good enough to close 20% of the people that you talk to, you don't have a lead problem, you get a sales problem, and you've got to work on your selling skills. All right, but someday you'll be ready, right? And so here's your big mantra: one funnel. Just like one funnel. And the reason why you want to have just one funnel is you want to have a pretty consistent customer experience for everybody that comes to you. Now, what I mean by one funnel, it doesn't mean like you've got one source of traffic that goes to one funnel. It means that you've got a sales experience, a qualification experience that is similar across all of your messaging and marketing because we want to sort of standardize and limit the number of variables that we have to manage in order to in order to tweak and optimize our campaigns. So all of your traffic, you want them to hopefully end up in one place, or one place that's very similar to others, and you're giving them some value so that you can actually have a reason to chat with them. And so it could be a lead magnet, or a video, or whatever. It doesn't really matter what it is, but if you're giving them something that proves your expertise, you sort of want this to happen. You want to put all your traffic in one spot, because here's the big reason is paid lead generation can be very expensive, and it's very complex to optimize that. All of you guys who run Facebook ads or search ads, like, this. And so there's a lot of stuff to manage. But so we want to sort of simplify this so you can get the best bang for your buck. So if you have consistent messaging in your traffic, and that meshes with the consistent messaging on your sales page, and that's the consistent message that you have in your sales pitch, you have this kind of continuity, which allows your prospect to trust you more in each step. Because if you say one thing in your ad and then another in your landing page and a third thing in your sales process, they lose trust very rapidly, and that will diminish your result sets. So this is what you really need to do is you sort of like one message that's consistent throughout, and that's why I'm a big fan of this concept of essentially one funnel. And here's the big reason. So there's this Zen approach called the chop wood, carry water, which is focusing on the essential things. So this is sort of a mantra. So if you just have this one funnel experience, you can work on it until it works. And you're not trying a million different things. You're sort of looking at the data and able to optimize it, because this is what we want, guys, is when you're trying to optimize something, if you can limit the number of variables that you have to think about, you can do more tests. So if you think about it this way, there's just two things that you need to be thinking about. You need to be thinking about your ad or traffic generator and your landing page. And each one of those have different metrics. And that's why if we're just running it to one landing page, now you can be running a bunch of different tests on your landing page to see which one is the most effective. But if you have one kind of message that's going out to your audience, because your audience across all of your advertising mechanisms is the same. The people who are interested in you on Facebook are going to be the same people on LinkedIn, the same people on search. So that's your audience who's got an interest and that you're relevant for. So as long as you can sort of standardize your messaging across your advertising campaigns and then do iterative tests there, like that can be a single optimization opportunity. And then if we only think about the landing page and we've only got one or maybe two, then you can run many, many more tests and get better data faster, rather than trying to think that you've got these 73 landing pages and you've got these 25 messages. Like, that's too complex for people at our stage, right? You've got to limit the number of variables, because none of you are very big companies, and you don't have tons of resources, and you can't waste money. So the more simple you can make it, the better. All right. Thank you so much. Your time and attention is super valuable, and I really appreciate it that you shared it with me. Now, my friends, I'm gonna open this up. I'm gonna open up this whole thing. So anybody who's still here, I know there's still 70 of you here. I'm going to see if there's a way that I can make it so that everybody can talk. I don't know. I don't know if I can unmute everybody. Let's see. All right. So, but if you guys have questions, like let's start answering them. So questions. How to create a long-term relationship with the client. So here's how you create a long-term relationship with the client. So, you have to be proactive with the client. So if they hire you to create something, right? Let's imagine that it's like a website, and you get paid to develop the website. So what you have to do is if you're developing the website, they're thinking of you as the website developer, right? And so that happens. The project's over, and then they're on to the next thing. So what you need to do is it's called land and expand. So essentially you land the business, right? So you get the business, you're developing the website, and during the website, you are proactive, during the build, you are proactively building the relationship with the client by asking them things like, okay, great. So like we're building we're building this website, like how's your marketing going to interact with it? Or, I see that like we've created we're collecting data here and putting it into your custom analytics. Like, how are we going to be using that? So if you can actually learn more about their business and add value to them, you can then start to suggest things to them, right? And that's that matters. Okay, so most of the time, and then we get some questions about that. And by the way, I don't know if you're still here, but does that make sense about how to create a long-term relationship? And I'm going to get to the questions about cold email in just a minute. So someone asked, says, I'm a freelancer, orders declining a freelancer. I managed a few freelance site before. Now I want to scale up my existing clients. Okay, so so how you scale up your existing clients is exactly the same way. So like doing a good job at the project you've been given doesn't actually entitle you to get more work because you've been paid for your value. So very much like creating a long-term relationship with the client, how to scale up your clients or how to get more business from your clients is by being thoughtful and offering them value that is outside of what you have paid for. Now, I don't mean that you're giving them things for free, but if you start sharing stories with them, about what people did after they did the initial project. So I think that's really meaningful. So it has a great example. That customer that I talked about, that paid search customer that we were generating 20 to 1 return on ad spend. We actually started by doing an analytics audit for them because they didn't understand their tracking. So we started there with a small project. It was $2,000. But the great thing is, as like we did the audit, but then I took it on myself, be like, okay, so listen, like you guys never had this data before. How are we going to use it? And once we started having that question about how do we extend the value of what you just paid for, then it turned into me saying like, oh, I'm looking at this data and I don't think your paid search company is doing the right thing. And then I said, listen, I'm going to jump in, like, let's just do a bake off. You give me $5,000 worth of budget and we'll see who does a better job. Right. And that turned into the business that generated, quite literally hundreds of thousands of dollars in revenue. All right. Okay. So we're going to get to all the cold email questions in just a second. Okay. Lots of questions. Okay. All right. So, here's a good question, and then I will get to all these other questions. Cy, I hope I'm saying that right. Cy B says, does it make sense to position yourself as a web designer as well as this SEO PPC guy consultant at the same time? So this is land and expand, right? So when you're talking to a client, they are generally speaking, they're buying a solution to one problem. So they want a new website. But as you were building the website, you can talk about the fact that you have additional add-on services during your sales pitch, but you don't need to close that business now because you want to get the thing that's in front of you. So you close the website development business. And you can have many services, but you have to have a primary service. And pardon me, and that just helps the customer say yes. Because if you're saying, we can do website development, SEO, PPC, Facebook ads, email, and all this other stuff, that's very broad. And people aren't willing to hire you for everything before they know that you are good at what you do. So if they hire you for a website development, you need to, basically you need to do a really good job of the website development part. And then during the process, when you're meeting with your client, you need to be proactive and say, hey, so listen, as we're developing the website, like we looked at a bunch of competitors, and we've got some insight into how your competitors are doing their SEO and their paid search. Is that something that we can talk about at some point? And they're going to say, yeah, because like everybody wants you to get insight from you for nothing. But, you do that research, and then they basically have said, yes, please pitch me on your services. And so you can have many hats, you can wear many hats, but in order to get the business, you have to have a hat that you wear most often. And then you've got follow-on services. Okay. And so that's the trick. Like, you got to get in the door, prove your value, and then sell the additional stuff. So you need to have a leading service, because you need to answer that question. What do I do? Right? What do I do? I build websites and then we market them. Great. That's awesome. But we've got to get your customer to say, let's build the website first. Okay. Now, if you run into another client that already has a website, you can lead SEO first. That's fine. Or paid search first. And then later, after you've been working in SEO for a while, you're like, hey, listen, like, your landing pages suck and we need to redevelop them. That's another service we offer. So basically, you've got to get in and sort of get the engagement happening and develop the trust in the relationship, and position yourself as somebody who can be a partner, not just a vendor. And then you can sort of work through things. All right. Other questions? Okay, most of the time, so we got a bunch of stuff. Okay, bunch of questions about cold email. Awesome. One of my favorite, one of my favorite topics. Okay, so the cool thing about cold email, my friends, is that it is 1000% like testable, and you can also make it sort of always on. So if you have a good, if you've got a good high quality way to acquire email addresses, you can test like crazy. You can test messaging like crazy. And the response rate, is that going to be low? Well, yeah, I mean, it is, but so who actually asked this question? So Omar, yeah, the response rate is too low. Like, are you sending out one email, or are you sending out a sequence of 3? Are you adding value? Are you asking questions? Or is your email, hey, I do all this kind of development stuff, hire me, right? So you really need to think about like how you're presenting yourself, because you need a good reason to email someone. And the fact that you need work is not a reason, right? So you've got to find the trigger that can send the email, and that trigger has got to be interesting. So in my cold email, the one with the picture of the website, like, I invented the trigger, saying I was on your website, and the fun thing about that was essentially, like, they get to see a picture of their website in my hands, right? And it's cute. People like that. I mean, people share that on their Instagram stories. So I think the way to increase your reply rate to cold email is to write better emails. And that matters. So by the way, I'm gonna this is I'm putting this here into the chat. So I did write a cold email guide, and as I told you, I love cold email. It makes me happy. It's easy to do, and that gives a big bunch of of guides. As a matter of fact, Rifat, you can like jump in and say how cool it is. But basically, in there's a bunch of ways to create titles and a bunch of different sort of frameworks that you can use depending upon what you're trying to accomplish. And just in the ugly pitch part of this, normally it's $47, but I'm going to it's normally it's $47. Today you can get it for 19. And if and also there's a membership area where every month I write some cold email stuff, share some data. I write a cold email sequence that you can model against. Normally that's to get lifetime access to that's $247. And I'm offering that for $47 right now to you guys. This is a specific offer just to you. That's a page just for you guys. But that's pretty much, and I hope you guys sort of take advantage of that because it's a pretty good deal. Anyways, but so the responsive cold email, yeah, it's low, but if you write better emails and you send them to people that you know more about, and you invest the time into sort of identifying what the problems these people might be facing are, then you get much better response rates. So so I have a client, they run an agency, they work with SaaS companies. And he wrote his best performing email is something we came up with together. And it says, I think it was the 5 biggest SaaS marketing mistakes today. That was the title. He sent that to CEOs of SaaS companies that are above $1 million a year. And then he had a pretty compelling email that linked out to a video. But that had a 73% open rate. Simple title, the 5 biggest SaaS marketing mistakes. I had another client who works with med spas, so people who do whatever. I don't even know what happens at a med spa, but they had been working in the space for a long time. Their best performing email was like, all med spas suffer from 3 out of these 5 problems. And then the email basically said, we've worked with med spas for over 2 decades, and we know that these are the 5 biggest problems that med spas have. Everybody's got 3 of them. Which 3 are yours? And that generated a near 100% open rate. So it was like in the 90s, which is crazy. And it generated like a 45% response rate. So by writing better emails, you get better response. And now your instinct when you're doing cold email is like, I'm just going to go for scale. Don't. What you need to do is you need to think about the world in like chunks of 100 or 200. So send out 100 or 200 emails and analyze the results. So, if the open rate is low, if the open rate is less than 50%, you effed it up. If your click rate, if you've got a link in there, or your reply rate is lower than, say, lower than like 3% for clicks, and if your response rate is less than, or your reply rate is less than 10%, well, geez Louise, that's not awesome. So that's not, so, and that means that 2 things are happening. Either you're not sending the emails to the right people, or your email sucks. And so cold email, it works. Like, it really does. So and if you are good about not sending 50 bazillion emails, and if you're sending like 30 or 40 or 50 a day, if you're sending 50 emails a day, that's and you're just sending out on business days, that's 250 outreaches a week, and then if that's in a sequence, that actually ends up, it's a 3 email sequence, that ends up being 750 emails outbound. You're gonna get something out of that. And if you're not, it means your email sucks, or the emails that you're sending it to suck. And so it's not that cold email doesn't work, it's that your cold email doesn't work. And I know that's sucky to say, but and especially if if English is new and exciting for you, and you are reaching out to a sophisticated audience, like, you're gonna have to have someone else write the email. And you really have to write the email, and you need to be able to listen to the email from your recipient's point of view. Like, put yourself in their shoes. Like, let's imagine I'm the CEO of a $3 million e-commerce company, and you send me an email. Is that email about you or is it about me? If it's about me, the owner, then frankly, I'm way happier, right? I mean, I think that's like, if you help me, I'm more inclined to think well of you. And so that's the key is being empathetic. And, sales and marketing are all about giving your prospect what they need at that moment to give themselves permission to engage further with you. And so if you read your email and it's all about you, if you're, and it's only talking about what you do, and it's not talking about how you can help them or how you understand them, that's why your response rate's low. And I know, Omar, that sucks. Like, that's not the answer you wanted. Like, the answer that you would love is like, oh yeah, put the word bananas in the subject line, and then everybody opens it. Like, that's no, you just have to write, you have to have better communication. All right. So, Mohammed, you're asking me, can these things be outsourced? Absolutely. Yeah. So Mohammed, you 100% can, you can outsource that. But you just have to, but when you outsource it, like, you really have to be careful about the content that's going on, right? Because if people are speaking in your voice and they're saying things that aren't as eloquent as you might be, that can be a problem. But yes, 100%, totally outsource. It just has to be genuine, has to be real. Okay. Rifat, you're asking for any tips on a good subject line? Yes. Okay, and then so Rifat's asking me, do you guys want me to wrap this up? Because we've been here for 2 hours, and I'm trying to provide as much value as I can and ask and answer all the questions. But let me know if you guys want to bail on this. We can wrap it up. All right. So anyways, we're just about done. I only have one more question here. And then the last question is how to write attractive email subject lines. So basically what you really need to do is really, think about what's going to be attractive to your client. And in my cold email guide, I give you 73 different strategies you can use, but basically, you need to think about it from the person who's getting it. All right. I mean, that is the number one thing that you have to do, is you need to think about what would make the person on the other side open yet. And if you can't imagine what that is, you need to figure out you need to understand that client better. Okay. And sometimes you're going to have a miss, of course, but that's pretty much, it's pretty much how it goes. So, but send your cold emails in batches of 100 to 200, analyze results, make changes, and that sort of stuff, and really think about the recipient, not about you. Okay, gang, this has been a slice of heaven. It's been more than twice as long as we had planned. I hope that this was valuable for you. I've really enjoyed talking to you. And you guys know where to find me. You can email me, find me on LinkedIn, find me on Facebook. It's been super, and I think I really hope that that this has been helpful, and that you guys can make some good changes that will allow you to generate some more business. And this will be up in the Rifat will put it up in the group. Okay. Good night, guys. Take care.